Futures trading involves risk and is not suitable for all investors. Content provided in this segment is meant for educational purposes and is not a solicitation to buy or sell commodities.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Tech Talk. I am Cody. He is Andy. Together we make up the Tech Talk crew. It is almost the last day in May. We got one more. It is the 30th, which is Thursday of May 2024. Tomorrow's the last day, and then we roll into June. How do you feel about that?
Rolling into June. How about that? Almost half the year is already gone. Can you believe it?
Just like
Kids'
that.
last day of school today. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
It's the last day of school around here. Yeah.
So, yeah, okay. So now you're on summer break. Big plans?
Big plans? I don't know about that. I could see why my parents were always pissed about summer break.
Agreed.
Because it was what are you going to do for the next 8 to 10 weeks? And so I can see why all the kids are super excited, but then so we'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. I don't know. I mean, you get baby G and it can come over and he's not going to shovel anybody's driveway because it's not snowing, but I'm sure you got some chores or something that.
Everybody's farm work. That's the best part about growing up on a dairy. You're put right to work.
Let's go. Put right to work. So we'll figure something out. But yeah, he's last day of school today.
All right.
Where's the time go? Who knows? Where does this chart going to go?
Where does weekly cheese?
All right, you're up. What do you want to do here? What are we doing with weekly cheese? We hit $2. So this is a weekly CME block barrel average. So 2 is basically $2. Got over $2. Not looking so hot.
No.
What are you thinking here?
I don't know. I was going to ask you, do we retrace all the way down to $1.67 and complete that gap down there? I don't think so. At least right now, I really don't think that we do. Do we go down to $1.80? I think that's probably a little bit more realistic.
Oh, we're already there in the block, aren't we?
Exactly. So does the barrel do the same also?
So, let's say the barrel came down to meet the block, right? That would put you basically kind of right around here. You have an itsy bitsy little gap.
Right.
Right there, don't you? You sure do. So you're saying we're going to go fill this bad boy, but not this guy, not this beast right here.
Yeah, that bigger gap on the bottom down to $1.67, $1.68. I don't think we go there right now. It's the summer. Everything's getting hotter. There's a couple different problems in the dairy industry right now. Down to $1.80? Sure. Right? We're almost there. Kind of like you mentioned, we're at 187.5 right now. Why not?
Yeah. Why not? Go back and look historically. July can be a bearish month.
It can be.
We've seen that in the past. So it's not outside of the realm of possibility. I feel like a lot of folks look at July and it's it's going to start getting hot. There's going to be some issues with milk production. But a lot of times, July, you don't start to see some of that drawdown until you get into August or really September. So Q3 could be kind of like one of those. Almost like a check mark.
Right. And I found it interesting before we get on here. I was just peeking at this. And I think last time we had talked about it was, hey, if we get over $2, the next testing point is $2.10. We got to $2.05 cheese, and that was it. That was all that we could muster.
That was all she wrote. So last time we did this, we went from $2, we went down to $1.45. I agree. It seems like a bit of a stretch. There's a lot of things that are kind of percolating, if you will. I've got a good percolator at home, so I like percolators, but think of perking. It's interesting. You've got some new potential demand functions coming into the market, right? McDonald's and Burger King, I think, are both looking at trying to drive traffic for low income and bringing in $5 meals, things like that. So trying to be inflation busters, I think is what they're calling them. But so there's that. And then, too, how's Coster Farms milk production? That's the question in everybody's mind.
Well, I think right now milk production is doing good, but you got to remember we're going to roll into the summer months here, the hot months, July, August, right?
Would you say milk production is doing good though? Because the last couple of months we haven't been no growth.
No, I still don't believe there's going to be any growth. I think there's certain places in the country that are okay right now. Obviously, there's other states that are having their own set of problems. Do I see milk production growing in the next couple months? No, I really don't. And I know people have said, that's just not true. Dairymen always grow year over year, month over month. There's just a lot of things that are popping up right now where I don't think you're going to see milk production grow. I think you're going to see cows shift and move from farm to farm, possibly. The heifer inventory that we have in the States here is very tight, very, very tight and expensive. And I just don't see the growth.
The reason I bring it up is, could we set back? Sure, it feels like it, right? You're also about to enter into a calendar month where, May's average price is obviously a little bit higher, obviously relative to April's average price, right? And so do you see folks, if we start to decline at the beginning of June, which feels like we could relative to the high of May, obviously unless we rip higher tomorrow. But, assuming that's the case and June's price is starting to shape up like it's going to be cheaper than May's, maybe you don't see as much previous people backing off a little bit, but that's a short-term deal. And what's interesting about it too is that the futures market's I feel like trying to tell us that.
Were we actually talking internally also, like overseas, EU cheese is also starting to bolster itself up in pricing. GDT podcast with John next week. Make sure to check that out. Mr. Spainhour, give you everything you need to know on European markets.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, you've got June that went from a premium to a discount to July. It's been kind of, the market's kind of had some on it, but you're not seeing a ton of like extra selling or really like material weakness in, like Q3 class 3. It's been happy to kind of build in this little bit of a premium here, hasn't it? I mean, like I've got July, August, Sep is basically $1.97.5. Last traded price in cheese markets, what? 188?
Yep.
187. So it's got a healthy little premium baked in. I'd agree. I think you'll fill this gap at the very least. Going down to a 168 type number, that seems tough.
It does.
You're talking about, let's say the barrel maintains a premium to block. You're talking about a 165 block and like a 170 barrel. Maybe. I don't know how much it gets into the NEPSR. Check out Joe's basis loaded, by the way, for that one.
Let's just say that we do. Let's say we go down there and fill that gap at 167, call it. If it happens, it's going to be a quick trip. Like you said, checkmark style, it is going to be a quick trip back higher.
I would agree. I totally agree with that. Like I said, I think you got to be a little bit careful. At the very least, we're going to see this little gap get filled. Does this bigger one get filled? I would be on board with your thought. I think it's going to be tough. And if it does, I think it prompts almost like a move like this.
Yeah.
We saw here, right? Where it's like we moved so quickly because we got so cheap with respect to the rest of the world. If you start talking about being able to book a lot of exports again. So that could be something. But I just think it's interesting to note that we're seeing a decline in supply, right? But you're also starting to see things that are popping up that could potentially be like new demand functions. So are we entering a market where it's like you're going to have less supply and more demand?
Correct.
That could be a healthy bull market. So we'll see. But like I said, you got to retrace some of this stuff. And that really isn't that much further from here, right? Or is that like another nickel?
We might be able to see it by the end of the month, which is tomorrow.
We'll see. But for now, probably got some weakness ahead of us. Here's another one that's super interesting. You pointed it out right before while we were doing our little pre-prep here. This is weekly butter on a spot basis. This has been such a slow grind up.
Yeah.
This is a weekly chart. So this piece is the beginning of the year, right? So this is a big move, 50 cents a pound, right? Going from basically $2.50 to up to $3. It feels like it's just been this very slow, steady grind higher. But for the first time in a while, to your point, this uptrend got violated. That's interesting.
It is.
Commentary? Questions?
Well, my thought is everyone was still bullish last Friday at about 1 p.m. until the USDA report came out. And all of a sudden we found a lot more butter in storage than anyone really knew about. Open up Tuesday because of the long holiday, limit down butter. Yesterday was down a little bit. And then today they came back buying butter and drove futures higher.
Time out. You saying in Memorial Day you weren't loading everything up with butter for the holiday?
I mean, at that point, you probably should have. It was this.
Let me ask you this. For like when you have corn on the cob, are you one of those people that like takes the cob and like rolls it out?
I've tried it both ways. So I've seen the people doing it, like holding it one-handed and twisting it, like this and putting it on. And I've seen people put it on the plate and roll it that way. I don't know if there's a correct way. Both ways are messy. Both ways are okay. But I did learn last year when you go to like a cookout or something, if you do it wrong or differently from the rest of the crew, they think you're from a different planet.
You're from a different planet.
That'd be a good question for the viewers. What kind of butter?
It's a good question for the viewers. How do you butter your corn?
How do you butter your corn?
Some people like to melt it and dress it on there or something like that. I've seen that before.
Or maybe you're a psycho that sprays it on. I've seen that before too. With that, you ever seen that? I can't believe it's not butter. I saw somebody spraying it on one time.
I wish you would grow your hair out like the guy. What was this, Fabio or whatever it is? Like, just grow your hair out like that guy. That'd be phenomenal.
I can't believe it's not butter. Spray.
All right, but on this chart.
Back to the chart.
I don't think we actually filled this gap, did we?
No,
we did. How about that?
Really?
So we filled the gap and are now below this upward trend. That's no Gouda.
We're making our way back onto it.
But to your point, I'm glad you said that. We haven't closed below it and then opened beneath like this week's close.
There you go.
Right. And so like, let's say we always look at like the pattern or like the trend clearly has a potential to have a break in it. Right. But then you also have to consider too, like, is there follow through like on the next bar? The next candle, in this case, starting next week. So I don't know if you want to get short butter just yet. Let's say we closed here today, 303-ish. Let's say we open next week at $3. So you'd have a 3-cent lower open relative to this week's close. And after breaking this upward trend, that would be a sign of weakness.
Correct. Yep.
You would be solidifying the weakness.
Agreed. Now, let me ask you this. One more day left in the trading week. Tomorrow's Friday. What if we complete this, move ourselves higher, and turn this into a bullish hammer?
Look out. We're going up.
All right.
Look out. Are we going to $4 butter this year?
Well, that's kind of my other thing is you talk to so many people in the industry that are extremely bullish. It's hard to be a seller of butter right now, right? I mean, some wild numbers have been thrown around: $3.50, $4, and people are going to say,
"Well, $3.50 that wild."
Well, according to this, no. But if you look at $4 butter, you're all-time highs, right? If I'm not mistaken.
$4 butter would be all-time record highs.
All-time highs. Okay, so in that, you can't say that it cannot be done. It just seems like a wild number.
I'm not going to count anything out in butter.
No.
I mean, why would you, right? And so, to me, I just think going back to like the technical piece of it, to your point, when we were getting ready for the show, this is something to be mindful of. You broke this down upward trend. If you get a close here and then open lower next week, you will have broken the trend and then confirmed it. That's a sign of weakness. It's butter, so it can be a little bit of a wild one, but that is potentially a sign of weakness. Last, but certainly not least, this is special Cody Coster, Sep Beans.
Sep Beans.
I'm going to let you just like run with this bad boy. What do you got here?
Well, I do believe, tell me if I'm wrong, that it is really bolstering itself up to be a big old M formation here.
I would agree. It looks like it's got a nice little double top in the making. And this is, what is this, the 100-day moving average? So this is one that the industry, I would imagine a lot of folks will look at. 50, 100-day, 200 days are pretty popular ones.
Interesting you just mentioned the 50-day because on mine I've got that also, the 50, 100, 200. We settled right on the 50-day moving average today.
Today? Okay.
Yeah.
What I think is interesting is, so actually I want to do something different here. Let's shake things up. All this noise here, right? Basically $12 was a number we struggled to get through.
Yes.
Here, right? So you made this high, tried to get through $12, couldn't do it, and then promptly like rejected that, attempt at a second, attempt to make a new high, and then broke through this area where you've had all this consolidation in. Right. And multiple attempts. I mean, there's 1, 2, 3. I don't know if you want to call that 4, but at least like call it 4 tests at $12, really failing to get through there with a close below it and then an open lower the next day. But here we are, just like what we looked at with butter, right? I mean, we had the close and then today you had the open lower. So this to me, like solidifies that, like, is this a magnet right here? What do you think?
Could we have a quick trip to 1150? I think so. If you're going to complete the M formation, yeah.
I don't know if it's a quick trip, but I would agree that 1150 is definitely in the cards after today's close.
Do you think we grind to 1150 or do you think we, on our way up where it took 5-6 trading days?
Good point. I guess my gut would be that you probably get a little bit more of a grind, like you see a few candles like this.
Okay.
Right? Like stair step it down. Like you see moves where it's like, yeah, you get 1, 2, 3 days in a row where you kind of get some indecision in the market and you don't get a lot of like price movement day to day, right? You get some ranges and then all of a sudden like you get a candle like this one right here where it's just like you get a big move in a day. That's kind of where my expectation is, where you get like 2 or 3 days in a row where you kind of stair step it down, very small, but still moving lower. And then all of a sudden one day you just like bam. And then next thing you know, we're at 1150. That's where my head's at with that type of a trade. But to me, it's like, how you get there, it's like it's a means to an end. I think we both agree that it's 1150 is the price we're looking for. It's the question of, is it tomorrow? Is it Tuesday? Is it Wednesday next week? So I don't know. You sound like you're ready to be at 1150 this time tomorrow.
I mean, if you are short this market, I think 1150 would be the place to exit. Personal opinion.
At least do something.
Right.
Maybe you're exiting. Maybe you're at least like putting a stop in or something like that. I would agree. I mean, this 1150 number seemed to be like a number. I mean, look at how much the market propelled once we bounced off that price, right? And so like you'd almost want to be a little bit careful about it too and say like, well, let's say you got through that. Look at that, by the way.
Oh
boy.
That is interesting.
That's right on there. Yeah. I mean, let's say it takes a day or two to get through this trend. I don't know if I'd want to get out if you got to 1150 unless you got like a day like this, like right there. But at the very least, I think you and I both agree 1150 is in the cards. How we get there is a question, right? Is it a few days? Is it a week, 2 weeks? Or you're by that tomorrow? Who knows? And then what do you want to do when you get there, right? Is it let's kind of putt around there for a little while and see if we can get through that? Because it's a big number.
It is.
Seems like it's a big number. And if you crack through that and got like, let's say, it's 1148 settle and 1145 open the next day, you might want to stay short.
Right. And as our friends Jim and Jake on the grain feed would tell us, the weather is going to dictate a lot of this in the next coming weeks. The weather for grains is going to dictate a lot of it.
Check it out, man. Weather's getting like wild.
It is. Hot one day, rain for 3 days, hot for 2 days, vice versa.
It's madness.
Madness. This is Sparta!
Maybe we should do tech talk from Greece or something like that. We'll do tech talk from Greece. I'll do that on location.
Awesome. Well, with that, everybody, we appreciate you tuning into Tech Talk. We didn't have anyone call or email in for requests, but if you do for next week, please let us know. We'd be happy to take a look at those. Want to give a big old shout out to Paige and Lexi, who are the heads of the show here, do all the editing, the animation, keeping Andy and I on track for the most part, keeping that locomotive just full steam ahead. If anyone would like to see any other charts, please email us, call us, let us know, and we'll be back next week, first part of June 2024, with some more charts. Until then, have a great weekend, an even better week, and we'll see you next time.